Hey everybody, it's PJ from Wisconsin Air Gunners. Going to be doing a little modification today on our EagleVision ScopeCam body. As a warning, this video does contain one segment of pest control. If you're here just for pest control, skip ahead to about 28:45 and you'll see it in the final clip. If you're here just to see how to put on an EagleVision camera, go to about 21:45. That's where we start talking about mounting. Up to that point, it's about figuring out how to move the prism from one body to another. The good folks at EagleVision have sent me their Mark II body. It is a little bit shorter than the original, and because of the way they've kind of cut off those curves, a little bit lighter than the original. So we're going to take out the prism assembly from here, put it in here, and see how she sets up. It should be nice because I love using an Optisan scope, but there isn't quite enough eye relief to get a good me view through the scope when I'm using this particular mount. So I'm hoping this will just take that little bit out and get me back into where I can see decently, especially at long range. So on to the disassembly part. So the first part, we're going to take off the GoPro, and easier to do with the camera out. There are 3 Allen screws that we need to take apart. So just remove those. And I'm not taking those out all the way. Just loosening them up enough to take the housing off. And then the part that the housing slides over, just unscrews. So you get that. And then the eye cup screws off. And that I never really have on any more than finger tight anyway, so that's a pretty easy one. And then that guy comes off there. So that part goes on directly like that. Part 1, super simple. So to get the mirror assembly out, there are set screws on either side that are going to have to be removed. Here, I don't know if you can see that or not, right there, and then one right there. So you need to take those apart, or take those out. And of course the trick is not to lose them. Looks like I need a smaller flathead for some of these. Boy, that is tiny. All right, I think the most important part there is just not losing them. And then this top part, once the set screw's gone, screws out. Now that's got glass over it, so you want to make sure you keep that clean. And this is what's going to keep dust out of the assembly. The other end, once you have the set screws out, you can rotate this and that comes out. And you want to set that aside so you don't confuse the two. I'm not sure, they may be exactly the same, but I'm not going to risk it. So we're just going to set that aside. And then the whole unit slides out like that. And so here is your reflective 90-degree prism. So we've got to get the lens assembly into the new body, and I think this is the trick. The lens assembly comes apart like this. So I'm going to take the first part and get it lined up and in, and then make sure that pops and you want to rotate it so that that opening is perfect. Gotta kind of put your finger in there. And then you take the second part and make sure they connect up. And don't do that. So I'm going to clean this lens off. And then make sure that gets in there. Keep all that dust out. And then make sure I have this oriented right. And you can tell it's oriented right because those little teeth should be out. And if you, trick my grandpa taught me on something fine threaded like this, if you rotate it backwards, you'll hear it click, and you know that it's where it's supposed to be. And then you can use a fingernail in those grooves. Make sure that's snug down. Now at this point you'll be asking yourself, did I put it together properly? So here's what you have to think through. This attaches to the scope looking this way. This attaches to your GoPro. This is where your eye cup is going to be. So if you can look through this side, that's going to be looking through your scope. If you look in this way, you're going to see the mirror. If you can see your fingers over here, because remember, this is where you're going to be looking, you put it in backwards. If you can see your hand here, perfect, because this is where your scope's going to be. So I have this all set, it's ready to go, but what I need to do is put some teeny tiny screws in there and tighten that down. I gotta be honest, these screws are so tiny, I can't even see which way is the front and which way is the back. So excuse me while I do this with my old man eyes. So it was painful trying to get those little screws in, so I saved you that. The next thing we're going to do is put the brass screw in the bottom. Hopefully this one's a little less, well, already I can tell you it's a little less painful to line up. That goes in there just like that. The next one is the, I guess you'd call it a step up ring, maybe. It's the one with the glass in it. So I'm going to put that one in. And I may have said step up, it probably is a step down. So again, it's really finely threaded, so I'm going to back it till it clicks. And then go until it's tight. And then once it's tight, you got two more of these tiny guys to put in. And I gotta be honest with you, need some cheaters for this, just so I can see. This thing is so small, can't even see which way the threads are on it. I'm sorry, which way the slot is. That's one. I had it lined up too. Give you an idea of the pain and suffering that's involved here. Oops. Got it. So at a little change of venue, actually, the kitchen got taken over for things like dinner. So we're going to get back at finishing up this changeover. The next part is to put the collar that the GoPro mount itself mates to. But before I do that, I just want to take a look at something. If you look at the two, the old one versus the new one, it doesn't look like a whole lot of extra, or rather that you're losing a whole lot of space, meaning the old one doesn't look all that shorter. until you flip it over here and you start to see how much space you pick up based on where it actually mounts the camera. So what I'm looking at is the difference in distance here versus here, and that's where I'm hoping that I pick up some actual usable eye relief is what I'm looking to reclaim. You can also see how much material was pulled off, and you know, less material means lighter weight. So actually, somebody's going to ask me this and I didn't do it. I didn't put these on a scale to tell you how much lighter it is, but I'm going to say by feel it's a lot lighter. So the next piece is this guy screwing in here, and again, finely threaded, so back it off till it clicks, and then you can get that set, and you want to get that tight. You don't want that shifting around on you. And then the next part is you take the cage for your camera, and this is a 2mm Allen screw, and you set that up so it's nice and even. Now, when we actually fit it to the gun, there may be need to adjust it in or out, and this is a matter of putting these in so they are just snug, so they're making contact, and then once they've all made contact, you can start evening it out, because you want that to be straight. If it's not straight going in, and I can see right now it's not perfectly straight, so I'm gonna have to make adjustments on that, but this is where the adjustments are made. So you're going to adjust this so everything is level, and once you have that set, it's set and you don't have to mess with it anymore. Where you see people say it's putsy to do this, this is the part that they're talking about. The kit that I originally got came with a couple of different eyepieces, and the way the eyepieces work, they're just rubber, and then they slide into this ring that then screws in. So you have a choice of which size you want. So if you like that short eye cup, you can go that route. If you want something longer, you've got that, and of course it's accordion, so you can push in on it. So which one you use is going to depend on your application. The reason you might want to use one of these is as follows. You are taking away usable light from your scope in order to feed your camera. Meaning, based on what it says on your prism, in my case, 75% of the light is going to the camera, and 25% of the light is coming through to my eyes. Now, your eye is a better camera than even a GoPro. It is. Just trust me on that. So your eye can function with a lot less light, and it'll shrink, it'll expand your pupil so that you're taking in more light, and it'll work. However, if there's a bunch of bright sun coming down, it's going to make what's coming through the scope seem like less light, meaning at this point my eye, because there's no light coming in from the outside, says, oh, it's dark, I better expand out that pupil so we can see better, and that allows you to compensate for the loss of 75% of the light coming to you. So you will want to use one of these, especially if you're shooting early in the morning or towards dusk. This is really going to make a difference. It's going to make a difference when you're shooting towards the sun, maybe a little less if the sun's behind your back. And maybe you always get to pick your shooting scenario and that doesn't matter. That's not the way it works for me. So I actually find this to be quite useful. It's just a matter of which scope I'm using the mount on, as to which one of these I use. The other nice thing about this is the way this works is you put it into the scope and then you tighten this down and you see that part in there gets scrunched up, and then eventually it's tight on the scope. You lock it down, it won't work. What you have to do once you have it set up is very slightly move it up and down like that, and this is going to give you a little bit of a weird, well, maybe if you haven't thought it through, counterintuitive kind of thing. When I go like that, it's actually going to change the crosshairs like that. So you want to look at the camera and make this adjustment until the crosshairs are level in your scope. So all I have left to do is get this mounted on my rifle, and then I can start going through the process of setting it up so that I'm getting a great picture. So we'll do that next. So the easiest way to do this is set it up on your scope and then connect your GoPro to a tablet or whatever else you can connect to see. In this case, I've got it looking straight at that reflector, and what you're trying to do is adjust the lens so that that screen view comes into sharp focus. So this kind of becomes a little bit of trial and error where you make very small adjustments by rotating the lens until you maximize the focus. You can tell when you go too far on something. But this work to get the lens focused just perfectly is going to help make sure that you get good, clear ScopeCam footage, and this is probably the most important part. So that one, I think I went just a little bit too far. Now, once you have this on your lens focused, everything is good up and down, you're ready to take it out to range and shoot. But in my case, because it's late at night, that's going to have to wait until tomorrow. So hopefully the weather will be good tomorrow and we can get you a little footage of some shots downrange. So we are lined up at 22 yards and let's take a look at some ScopeCam footage. Well, let's see how that turned out. So now we're going to take a look at about 45 yards. But hopefully that footage is clear and you can see how the mount works out. A couple of the other things going on in this rifle that you might have seen. This is the Saber Tactical pump action that I've installed. I've got a video coming out on how to install this. It's really nice. It has a couple of different functions that are worth mentioning. I was using it in what I'd consider the kind of rapid fire mode, meaning I have depressed the slide release and kind of flip this additional safety off. If I do that, then you have to push the button in before you can slide it back, and it locks in place every time. But if you want to have it for more rapid fire, you can push that in, flip that up, and then while it bottoms out and it's got a little tension there, it's not physically locked like it is now. This rifle has also been power tuned by Ken Hicks. This is a Mark 1 impact. Ken did a bunch of stuff to it, and I've got a whole video on what he did, but some of the highlights are an enlarged transfer port, an enlarged, this is actually a Mark 2 plenum instead of the Mark 1 plenum, which requires the milling of the block out to 14 millimeter, and then the addition of the M14 plenum. So this actually has more potential airflow than the power plenum on a Mark II. So really nice upgrade by Ken Hicks at Southern Precision Air Weapons. So a couple of things special about the gun. This by Saber Tactical, this by Southern Precision Air Weapons. So finally, here's that pest control we were talking about. So I'm going to let this run straight through. As we finished setting up the mount, this squirrel came out at about 25 yards. I'm not sure exactly what he was waiting for. It concerns me a little bit when these guys just hold steady like this. It's not normal behavior. So if you're looking for a reasonably priced GoPro mount for your scope footage needs, give the folks at EagleVision a look. This is certainly a reasonably priced mount, and it performs really well. I've gotten really good results from both the original one I had and now this Mark II version. There's a link to their website, and it's an affiliate link, so I suppose if someone were to buy off this video, I'd get some measure of kickback from it, and I'm okay with that, but thought you guys should know. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed the video. Hope you'll consider subscribing if you aren't already, and hope that you'll also hit that like button because it matters. Until the next video, be safe, shoot straight, and in these difficult times, make sure you're keeping yourself and your family well. See you next time.